Hey everybody, Brian here back with the games I beat for September and October 2023. Um, so let's get to it. First off, I beat a game. Well, obviously, I like the NES a lot, and there's certain games as a kid I played that I always wanted to go through, and that list is getting smaller and smaller because I just recently beat the original Double Dragon for the NES. Um, So different than the arcade port, as you know, Double Dragon is a very important arcade game that came out in the uh, mid '80s, I believe. This port was different. Like a lot of companies did at the time, they made games different from the arcade for the NES. This has basically one player only. At the beginning, Marion is kidnapped, and you play as either Billy or Jimmy. I forget who it is. And you go through, and at first it's just very simple. Just have a punch, and you can jump. So you beat up guy, and you have a kick too. B I think is punch. A is kick. I think you have a kick, or maybe it's only a punch. I don't. I think it is a kick. I'm not sure. But anyway, you have a punch, and you get experience for beating people, beating guys. And when you get like 100 experience, I think it is, you get a new set of moves. I think the next after that you get like a jump kick, and then you get like an elbow, and you can get like a hair grab and throw, and it makes the game like kind of like there's a little bit of RPGs in it. A lot of games at this time, Dragon Quest was really big. Console games were becoming more than the arcades, so they were experiencing in Japan a lot of like, and then these ports over here, a lot of RPG elements in games. So they made it very different than the arcade game styles that these were based on, because you could have different types of play because people had the Famicom on at home, and they could do different kinds. They had, they could make the game different than the arcade game. It works pretty well. I think I wish they would have just gave you the moves right at the start. There's some glitches in it. The manual does explain like the moves you get. So technical levels. See, Double Dragon has 7 technical skill levels. Every game starts at level 1. Each additional level you earn more fighting techniques. Indicator: when you reach a level over 999, when your score reaches over 999, a heart mark appears and your level will go up. So you see right here. So A button punches. A jump kick, and when you get a technical level, you can do a jump kick with A and B, or you can jump. Low kick with B button. Hair pull, you punch the enemy and kind of stop and put towards them, and you'll grab them. So the manual kind of is important. It tells you how to do these moves. Kick, press the B button. A, punch, and headbutt, hit the control pad right on the direction. And the different technical levels, you can get like the spin kick, control pad twice when facing an enemy, the over the shoulder throw, the grab, which is down here, whoa, right there, and the elbow punch, which is very important. The elbow punch does a massive amount of damage. That's like one of the last moves you get, and you kind of need the elbow punch. So you kind of like face away from the enemy and hit like towards an A or something, B, and then he'll do like an elbow punch. So it's a very short game, but it's very tough. You have, I think, 3 lives, but you don't have any continues, I don't think. So to get through takes a lot of like repetition. You get better at it as you go, and it gets that addictive quality like a lot of the older NES games. So it's very short, so when you learn what to do, you can go through it fairly quickly, but it still provides a pretty decent challenge even though it's short. So you see, here's basically all the stages right here. City slum, industrial area, forest, and hideout of the boss. The last level, you do like a gauntlet of enemy fights, and you fight this guy with a machine gun. He's very, very tough. Very, very tough. You have to kind of like almost like get him to the bottom of the screen and like pin him there and keep jump kicking him. It's really weird. I think I got pretty lucky. And then after that, there's a twist where you fight Billy or your brother, and you beat him, and then Marion's saved, and it's all over. Um, so yeah, there you are. Yeah, Double Dragon. It's on the Switch collection, the Kunio's Double Dragon collection on Switch. The arcade game's also on there. I haven't really played through the arcade game much. I remember I played maybe it once on the arcade machine once back when I was a little kid, once or twice. But the NES version of Double Dragon, pretty good. Glad I finally beat it. It has great music too. Another NES game. This game I had as a kid. This is still my original copy. And that is Double Dragon 2 The Revenge. One of the best box arts on the NES. Look at how detailed that is, with Billy grabbing like Marion and all the thugs in the city like looking up at him like he's grabbing a whip. Somebody like Linda threw at him over here. There's like a chopper in the background. It's so cool. I had this game as a kid. I like this game better than the first one. You have, so you attack with like B and A. So if your B is your left attack and A is your right attack. So depending on how you face, you want to hit B to hit left and A to hit right. And if either one, B is either kick or A is kick. You have a knee that you have that like, so how you do this knee is when you jump, as soon as you land, you mash A and B and forward and you'll do the knee. The knee does massive amounts of damage, and you want to learn that move early because you're want to use it often, because if you get up from a fall, you can do the knee. So if you're just get knocked down, you're surrounded by enemies, you can mash A and B and then hit towards the direction of the enemy, and you'll get up and you'll knee them right away from you. The knee will kill most enemies in 1 or 2 hits, except for the really, really strong enemies. 2-player co-op. The first one was not. You see head-to-head 2-player action. 9 incredible missions, all new martial arts maneuvers. It has a lot of platforming. I forgot to say the first Double Dragon and this one have some platforming, and you jump by hitting A and B. It's not the best, and you get to this part, it looks like Castlevania Gears, where these spikes fly up and you got to time your jumps. If you fall in, you die automatically. No, I don't know if it has any continues or not, but I think it's like 4 lives or something, and then I think it's over. Not a long game either. It is pretty difficult. So there's 3 levels. There's Practice, Warrior, and Supreme Master. Practice ends at like midway through the game. Warrior ends at like the last level, but you don't fight. You beat like a boss, but you don't beat the final boss. And then Supreme Master, you beat the final boss, which is like an awesome moment where you're like fighting, and then in this background, like this, it's a different background than where you started. It's like weird. It's like an ancient temple, and then you get him down to like half health, I think, and then the music changes to this awesome rendition of this. The last song in this game is awesome when you're fighting the boss. It gets you so pumped, and then when you land the final hit, you do like a slow-mo, and it like shows like whatever move you were doing, like hit the boss, and then it's so cool. Really, really good game. Very addicting. I played this a lot with my friends as a kid. My one friend, because he had it, I had it. A very popular game back in the day. Lots of people had it. When you talk about NES games that people had, like Mega Man 2, Double Dragon 2, Double Dragon, they were games that people had. So I'm very happy to finally beat Double Dragon 1 and 2. This one's great. Very hard, like Double Dragon. You have to kind of play it over and over and again until you get it. But that's the good thing about these games. Like, if you like them enough, you're going to want to play them over and over again. If you don't like them enough, then you're not going to want to. But so it says, here's the back of the box. I'll read it. The Double Dragons, Billy and Jimmy Lee, are back to avenge the loss of Marion. In their quest to defeat the evil Shadow Warriors, the martial arts duo are challenged in 9 incredible missions, facing ruthless street gangs, nunchucking ninjas, and giant mutant warriors. The non-stop action winds its way through construction sites, alleyways, and underwater hideouts, complete with secret elevator shafts, spiked ceilings, and razor-sharp mechanical claws. And in a bonus mission never before seen, the duo's worst fear becomes reality as they fight the ultimate battle between good and evil, a battle where not only their lives are at stake, but the fate of the entire world. And then you say, go to it, Double Dragon, as your martial arts skill. Face the ultimate challenge. Rooftop scramble the enemy chopper. Don't let the death gears bring you to a grinding halt. Break into the secret island fortress of the evil Shadow Warriors. Great game. Double Dragon 1 and 2. Not for everybody, but they're very addicting. Even Double Dragon 2, this was different than the arcade game. It played more similar. Like, you don't gain, like, extra moves later, but it's very more of a traditional two-player beat-em-up because they took the experience system away from Double Dragon 1. This is also on the Kunio collection, I think, on Switch, I believe. So I think they have, like, save states and stuff. They're pretty fun games. I enjoy them quite a bit. Glad to finally beat them. I gotta say, finally beating a game that you played as a kid is a huge, like, it's a great sense of accomplishment. Oh, okay, here's one. Here's one I didn't play as a kid. Trojan, another early Capcom game you see here with the grid background, like the first Mega Man and Section Z. This is an arcade port as well, but it plays differently than the arcade, from what I understand. I've never played the arcade, but from what I heard, it does play. So you have a attack and a shield. Your B is your shield, I think, and your A is your A is your shield and your B is your attack. Your shield can block some projectiles, and up is jump. So this is a side-scrolling hack and slash, pretty short. So you play as this guy with a sword and a shield, obviously, and you go left to right. Enemies come at you, and you slash them. And you can go in these manholes or find secret areas where you get hidden items. The items are not shown, and you jump in the air and slash, and they'll appear. There's like jump boots, which make you jump really high for a limited time. There's like life refills that you find. There's another item that you get. I'm trying to remember what it was. I think it makes your attack power stronger, I believe. So you want to get that. And when you find these items, it makes the game a lot easier. So you want to go down the manholes and such and find the hidden areas, find the hidden items. Very hard at first. Like a lot of these games, when you first play it, you're going to die pretty quickly until you figure out, I read the instructions, okay, there's hidden items you can get to make the game a lot easier. And the enemies have patterns, much like any game like from this era. They have patterns you learn, you memorize, you know where they come out, and you can better deal with the damage. I found for this game, if you run, the guys can't catch up to you. So there's stretches that are very, very hard if you stop and fight everybody. But if you keep moving, like the enemies will keep following you. And because the NES can only have like 3 enemies on the screen at once, they won't spawn any other stuff, and you can kind of keep them behind you and keep running. It's kind of a way to cheese games when you understand NES. Like, if you keep enemies on the screen with you and move, they won't spawn anymore because the NES cannot technically draw. It can only draw so many sprites. So on the second stage in particular, you can just keep running. Like, kill the first guys in front of you, and guys will come behind you, but you can just keep running and don't deal with them, and you'll keep ahead of them. And you still die a lot. This game took me probably... Once I put my mind to it, it took me a few hours to beat, probably like 4, 5, 6 hours to learn the game. Pretty quick. The last boss was pretty hard. You only have so many lives. You have no continues. So many times I've gotten up to the last boss and just died until I learned how. Okay, you got to like kind of how to hit him. It's kind of weird. The last boss, you got to like jump in and hit him, kind of get away because he can kill you in 2 hits. Good, pretty decent music. Early NES game. Pretty fun. Not Capcom's, you don't really hear a lot about Trojan on the NES, but I never played it growing up. I always knew about it, but it has like a one-on-one fighting mode too, which is pretty cool. The graphics are decent. It has a cool apocalyptic vibe. Like there's cars in the background. You go into like sewers. You go into like a elevator built in a building, like you climb down. Uh, Weird looking, funny enemies, like apocalyptic, like almost like Fist of the North Star style enemies. Decent game. That's Trojan on NES. This game I did play as a kid as a rental, and that's Bad Dudes on NES. I finally beat this, and this is a glitchy mess of a game, but the music is kind of cool. You fight Karnov on the first boss. Really had to learn this game. Very short too, but very difficult. You want to get the weapons that allow you to have a little distance. There's like a knife, a sai, a nunchuck, and a dagger. You want to get those. Stuff comes at you left and right. The game moves pretty slow and choppy until you get used to how it plays. You're going to die a lot. And then at the end of the stage, so basically I should explain, Bad Dudes is a side-scrolling beat 'em up. Double Dragon, you can move like left and right as well, and then kind of like up and down in the first Double Dragon or Double Dragon 2. This one's strictly side-scrolling, like 2x or the XY. You can only move up or down. You can't move like up and down off. Like it's weird to explain. It's only like side-scrolling, like a platformer like Mario, but you can't move like kind of up. Cool music. You fight like this boss gauntlet on the end. It's very difficult. The only way I could get it was like keep the nunchuck and not die, and then you fight this guy in a chopper, and he's insanely easy. You kind of just get up there and just keep smashing, and you'll get him. There's some stuff you can do to make the game easier. So an enemy, if you're on a platform, an enemy will always jump up to try to get you. And if you kneel and crouch, he'll always just jump up into your kick and get in a loop of just getting hit and hit. So that's kind of cool. This is a game I don't think it's great, but I always wanted to beat it because so the NES at the time, everything was new and exciting, and even a bad game like this was kind of exciting to see, because I mean, it was just, coming from Atari and all that, this game was leaps and bounds better than a lot of Atari games in my opinion. Of course, those are a lot of like score-based games. This game's like more. It was kind of like, not. I shouldn't say leaps and bounds better, but it was different. It was like an adventure. You were playing these guys like like an action movie, and you were saving. Like the president was kidnapped. So the story, I should say, the president was kidnapped by ninjas, and you have to be the bad dude to save him. It's like a Ronald Reagan that appears at the end of the game. You save him, and then you go out for a burger with him. It's crazy. I never got past the first stage as a kid. Maybe I beat Karnov, who's the Turkish guy, fat Turk. No, I don't want to say fat, but like kind of portly belly on him. But he still has a lot of muscle. Decent game, Bad Dudes. Well, I should say it's a glitchy mess, but I kind of enjoyed. I enjoy a glitchy mess of a game sometimes. Sometimes. Next up is Hudson's Adventure Island on the NES. So I played Adventure Island. I played through Adventure Island 2, Adventure Island 3, Super Adventure Island, and Super Adventure Island 2. So this was the last of the Adventure Island games on Nintendo systems I needed to beat. And this game is one of the hardest NES games that I've beaten. It starts off very simple. Just jump over the enemies. You play as Master Higgins, this shirtless, kind of portly guy who has to save his girlfriend Tina, who's kidnapped. And you go through 3 stages of 8 worlds each. 8 worlds with each world has 3 stages. And at the end you find a boss who's like this big, tall mammoth then they change his head up. That's the only difference. And the boss is very easy. You just jump, hit him, and then back off. Avoid the fireball, jump, hit him. But the platforming gets very, very precise. And what I mean by that is there's enemy types in this game, like a cobra will shoot fire. There's rocks that you'll trip and you'll fly forward and hit an enemy. It's one-hit deaths. You got to learn all the enemy type attacks. On top of that, you got to avoid obstacles like rocks that push you into enemies. You got to avoid pitfalls that when you step on platforms they fall. And on top of that, you have a constant timer that's your health meter that's ticking down. I should say that's more of a timer that's like a hunger meter. When that's gone, you're dead. And you have to constantly be catching food, eating fruit that appears in the sky, and that'll refill it. So if you go slow, you kind of run out of time. But if you go fast, you're going to die by hitting enemies. So you have to constantly move fast enough to get the fruit to get to the end and not die by the time out, but also don't move too fast that you'll just run into obstacles and enemies. The placement of traps and enemies in this game is very devious. Like you'll jump and there'll be like two like little blocks or rocks you got to jump in between, and don't hit them because you'll fly into a snake that spits fire. There's these flowers on the ground, and once you pass, this fox will come behind you at super speed, and you got to know, okay, I got to jump over them whenever you see a flower, so you got to keep an eye out for that. There's these spiders that are dangling from a web that you got to jump between. I think I played up till World 6 on my first time. It took like 3-4 hours to get to World 6. And then 7 and 8, it took another 3. And then World 8, 1, 2, and 3 is significantly harder than anything up until World 8. Those last 3 levels, it's like Adventure Island starts at World 8 and it ends, because 6, 7, and 8 are difficult. World 8, or 6 and 7 are difficult. World 8 is another level. I think it took me, I'm going to say 8 hours to get through the 3 stages on World 8 alone. You have a weapon to help with your enemies. You got an axe that you find, and you can throw, and it goes in an arc. And you can also find this bolo, which is 2 fires on a string that you threw. It goes straight, and it can destroy the rocks that you can trip on, and destroy the big rocks that fall down. And you get these items by eggs that appear. When you're running past in the game, you'll sometimes jump and you'll see an egg, and if you land on that, you'll get an item. It'll be either like a skateboard. There's a skateboard where it's like an auto scroller, or a endless runner where you just kind of keep running. You move forward, and you can take 2 hits then, but you move forward all the time. I don't really like the skateboard. I kind of ignore it if I can, because I always just end up dying when I get it. I hit something and fall into an enemy. And there's also eggplants, and what the evil eggplant does is it'll fall behind you while you're running, and it'll significantly just eat away your life. So you got to go even faster. You can get a milk bottle, which fills your health, your food meter fully. And these, a lot of times you'll be playing and you'll just run and you'll jump and you'll miss them, and it'll scroll the screen and you can't go back and get them. Also, this game has no continues, so you have to play through it without dying. Except, I should say, this game has no continues at first. If you read the manual, it says, this game, something like, the game has no continues unless you find the Hudson Bee at the end of the stage, at the end of World 1. So you can't continue the game until you find this hidden egg at the end of 1-3 or 1-1 that allows you to continue. Once you get the Hudson Bee, I think it's down and start to continue, or up and start, one of the two. And then you can continue at the beginning of the start of the world you died on. So if you die at 6-3, you'll begin at 6. I don't know how anybody beat this game without finding that bee. I can't imagine going through this game without continuing. It's insanely difficult. Those last 3 stages, I had to leave my NES on for like 3 days to beat this game. It's insanely difficult. This game is, wow, challenge for sure. If you want a challenge, even with unlimited, first of all, find the Hudson Bee so you have a shot, and then prepare to be challenged, because this game is challenging. It gets a little repetitive. There's only a few backgrounds. There's like a forest background, a cave background, an ice cave, and a sky background. But the level design gets significantly harder. Like I said, play through Adventure Island 1. If you want a big challenge, this is very difficult. Yeah. Next up is Blasphemous 2 on the Nintendo Switch. It's also available for the PS4, Xbox, PC. This is a sequel to Blasphemous 1, which is around 2019. It's a indie Castlevania kind of meets Metroid kind of adventure platformer search game where you search to find items to get further in the dungeon. Big, massive world. It's very. If you like Castlevania and Metroid, you'll probably like this. Um, the bosses are very like detailed and huge sprites. You get like double jumps to go a different area. You get all kinds of certain abilities and moves. You have 3 weapons. You can eventually get all 3. You pick one at the beginning. You got a huge like hammer that's like slow but does massive damage. You have like this sword. It does a lot of damage, and you have these 2 swords that are very fast, like almost like pokers. Eventually, you'll get all 3, and you can switch between them. That's different from the first Blasphemous, where you only had 1 weapon. The world is interconnecting. It's a lot. It seems a lot easier than the first Blasphemous, although not by much. It does have a good map. The map is laid out very well in one of those type of games like Metroid style games. The enemies are very cool looking. The music's kind of there. It's not like the best. You just kind of hear in the background, but it fits the game. It has like a Catholic kind of feel to it, like the first one, based on Catholicism. I don't know how you say it, but Catholic faith, and over in Spain, I think the developers are. The Game Kitchen are them. There's a good sense of adventure, like, oh, I got this ability, I can go back and come over here. Each weapon does like a different thing. Like the big mace you hit bells and they like platforms appear and you can get up to somewhere. And when you get the 2 swords, you can hit these little like areas that let you warp through walls. And then you have these other weapons that allow you to break down these. 1 sword you have allows you to like break down barriers and stuff, I believe. And you get some other abilities. You also get a double jump, obviously. You also get like these beads that allow you to customize like what you want to do. There's like 30 of them that you can customize, and you can also increase the slots. You can hold up to 4. So you can do one that gives you more money, currency to allow you to buy stuff. When you beat enemies, you can get one that increases your fervor, which is your MP basically. You get magic, like in Castlevania. Like there's like an axe weapon, a knife weapon. There's quite a few of those. There's ones that have like a guy follow you, and there's a lot of those. They're called prayers. And there's a down and A. A does your normal prayer, and there's other prayers where you hit down and A and it does a more powerful prayer. There's also I want to say there's like these statues that you can have that increase damage. And there's like, I think 4, 8, 12, 13 of them or so, 12, 13. That they're wooden statues that you get by doing this quest for this carver. It sounds like I'm talking gibberish, but I'm just trying to explain like all the stuff, parts of the game. There's a lot to it. And then to get the best ending, you have to do something with the statues, put them all in the middle facing each other, and then you like go to this ember fire and burn it, and then you can get these embers, and before you face the last boss you use it, and then you can fight the true form. I would have never got it without looking up, because at first I beat the game and I didn't get the good ending, and I looked it up, and you have to do this thing with the stat. I would have never got, so that I don't like. Same with Symphony of the Night. The reason I don't like it is as much as because, or one of the reasons, or I should say I like Symphony of the Night, but one of the things about Symphony of the Night I don't like is to get the good ending, you have to know to use this ring or something to see, or sunglasses to see Shaft controlling Trevor, and I thought, no, people, it seems like I'm the only one who had trouble with that, but this has the same problem as you don't know what to do to get the good ending. I think it's a little too cryptic, but use a guide for that. It has a sense of exploration like Metroid, and it has a cool, it's like Castlevania, but with Metroid stuff elements in it, and it's pretty cool. There you can see the back. It's been a while since I played the first one. They're both pretty good. I think the bosses were a little harder in the first one, but this was still a hard game. And that's blasphemous too. Sorry I can't remember too much details on this. That came out a few months ago, and my memory is like, even if it happens yesterday, I sometimes forget. But if you like Metroid, Castlevania, and like creepy, like there's like characters in that game like a giant like baby, like a fat Cupid baby. It's a weird game. You'll sit and be like, what's going on? Weird, but fun. Next up is Gimmick on the Switch by Sunsoft. And I gotta say, Sunsoft is coming back. Not as coming back, they were always around. But they announced later this year they're releasing Gimmick, which is an NES game that was only in Japan and I think Scandinavia, and we never got it. It was 1992, I want to say, so pretty late. It's a physics-based platformer with great music. Sunsoft always has great music. So you start this guy, Gimmick. You're given to this girl on her birthday, and you see a short. She opens up. She's so happy. She puts him on the shelf, and all the other toys are relegated to this box in the corner. While she's sleeping, the other toys are jealous of Gimmick, so they come alive and they take her to another dimension. Gimmick sees this on the shelf, goes into the dimension to save her. From there on, you have this star. So, first of all, the opening music is great. The whole soundtrack's great. A very slippery game at first. You're going to die a lot just getting used to how slippery the controls are because they're momentum based. So if you see a hill, so it's a 2D platformer, if you see a hill, when you slide down it, you'll pick up a lot of speed and you'll jump further. But it's very slippery at first is what I have to explain. So you got to get used to that. There's also your only method of attack is this, well, one of your main method of attack is this star. So you hold B and this star will appear above your head. And as you're holding B, it's there. When you fire it, it fires down in this little arc, and then it bounces, and it keeps bouncing, and you can't fire until the star is gone. So if you jump and fire it, it'll hit the ground harder and bounce higher. So if you want to hit somebody up here, you got to kind of run and jump, and you get used to how high it goes. So you got to get used to the movements, very slippery, momentum based. 2, you got to get used to how to use that weapon. So if an enemy is too far from you and you throw the star, it's going to hit in front of him and go over his head. So you have to know, okay, I got to either wait for the enemy to come to me and then I hit him right at the last second, or I jump and then throw it, and while I'm in the air, it'll have enough distance to hit him. You can jump on top of enemies on this game and not die. Most enemies you can jump on top of and ride, and then you can hit them with the star. The stages are very well designed to take into account the momentum and movement and slipperiness and the physics of the game. So there's a lot of places where you have to get a slide down a hill, jump, and clear a big pit. And the bosses are the toys that are jealous of the girl, of Gimmick, for being here, the favorite girl, the favorite toy of the girl. Every music soundtrack in this game is great. Just listen to the music. It's Sunsoft during the NES they mastered the NES sound hardware. They used I think this had a special chip in it, the Famicom version, to like make it sound so good, and that's here. I think it's only 5 or 6 stages, maybe 7. Yeah, I think it's 6. So you have unlimited continues to get through 6 worlds, and that's great. And you get an ending at the end. When the ending at the end is kind of, he doesn't rescue the girl, he just goes home. And at the end, you'd see a question mark above his head with thinking of the girl, like a bubble. So to get the best ending of this game, you have to go through the whole game up to stage 6, I believe, and beat that last stage without using a continue. And on top of that, each stage has a hidden treasure that is basically to get the treasure, you have to use Gimmick's physics and star ability. So the first treasure is the end of the first world. There's this platform up here, and you're on the platform here, and you're like, how do I get that? So the way you got to get it is bounce a star off the wall, jump on the star, and then jump use a star as a platform to jump on the platform and then jump up in the sky. And then the music changes. And when the music changes to this like happy, you know there's a special like treasure there. So then you get the special treasure and you get a ton of points. So you don't get extra lives in this game normally, are hard to get unless you get the treasures. They're based on point systems. So after every, I think it's the first 20,000 or 10,000 points, you get an extra life. So when you get the first treasure, you get like 3 extra lives. So you start out with 3, you'll get like 6 right off the bat. So it's imperative as you play the game to find these treasures to make the game more, to get that best ending, because you want to find the treasures to get extra lives. So you have some wiggle room to not continue and beat the last boss. And then once you beat the last boss, it opens up a 7th stage that's basically a walk through this peaceful area with this peaceful music, and you fight the last boss, who's a guy in a cloak. Almost reminds me a little bit of Ashtar from Ninja Gaiden 2. Not as much, but he has like a cloak and he fires at you. And then you beat him, and then there's another boss who's the real villain, who's this guy with a sword. And you beat him, and then you finally rescue the girl, and it's cool. You see like Gimmick walking, looking for her, and she's in like this room, and she's all scared, and he opens the door and she sees her. She sees him, and she lights up, and it's very cute. And then they go home. Very addicting game. At first you play it and you're like, wow, this is impossible. But play it and you'll get the controls down, one. Get how the star works, two. And you'll make it a little further. You'll find the treasures. Oh, I'll get some extra lives. Explore, find the treasures. And you'll get a little further. And then just beating the game was a challenge. And then I was like, I can get the true ending. And I finally did it. I did get the true ending. I went through the whole game without continuing. Got the true ending. Very fun game. Very hard at first, but very addicting. And I'm so glad that Sunsoft released it over here, because I mean, I would have never thought I would have played like a new, to me, NES release. Well, actually, I have another one coming up that I'm talking about next. But in 2023, Sunsoft is also releasing Hebriki this year, a remake of Euphoria, which we never got over here until the Virtual Console eShop on Wii U, and that's a Sunsoft platformer where you have 3 of these characters that play differently. And it's like a Metroid style game with a little connecting world. Great music too. I'm looking forward to that. I think that comes out early next year, so I'm probably going to be playing that. Really looking forward to that, because I played it on the Virtual Console and really liked it. And that's Euphoria, but they're going to call it Hebriki. I'm really happy that Sunsoft is re-releasing these games, because Gimmick and Hebriki are 2 we never got over here. Now, if only Konami could bring back Mylon from Mylon Secret Castle and release those 2 games again. Mylon Secret Castle and Do Re Mi Fantasy. I love that. So yeah, thank you Sunsoft for releasing this finally over here. And be on the lookout for Hebriki. I think this is only like $10 on the Switch eShop too. Very good game. That's probably, I would say that Adventure Island was and that are pretty tough. I'd say Adventure Island is probably tougher in the... Oh god, this game is driving me crazy. But Gimmick, I actually wanted to get better and succeed. So they're both tough, but Gimmick is really good. Next up we have... This was one of the earliest... This came out in 2010, I think. This was one of the earliest home... Really... This is... At its time, I think it was the first new NES game to come out in years. That's Battle Kid in the Fortress of Peril. This was released by Civac Games. This was his second game, I think. His first platform game, I think. He nailed it with the feel of an NES game and the sound and everything. He did very well with this game. And he had some help. This is a 2D platform game like Mega Man. You basically are this kid. You jump and you can shoot like a pellet, like a little lemon pellet. Each stage is a challenging stage in itself. there's checkpoints, so you beat like 4 stages and you get a checkpoint and you continue there with a password, or you have unlimited continues on the normal difficulty, and you take it on a password and continue there. You have to get six bosses to get to the final ending. To get to the, I should say, 6 bosses, and then you can face the final level, and beat the final boss. Very difficult, but I couldn't put it down. It's like so quick, you die, but you just want to keep going because maybe there's these platforms you got to jump through and an enemy here, and at first you're gonna die and you're like, oh, I see what I got to do, and it's very addicting. You get special weapons like a high jump that makes you jump higher. You get like a feather that if you hold up you can fall slower. You get like a forget what else. Here's the, actually I should read the instruction book. So coordinates display right here. You have an X and Y. So you don't have a map, but it displays the coordinates on the X plane and the Y plane. So like 3 over to the right is 3, and in the X direction 3 up is 3 in the Y. So 3 would be 3 in the X, 3 in the Y. High jump, feather fall, infinite oxygen to go underwater, double jump, and damage amp, which I never got. It's hidden. I haven't found it yet, but apparently it's hidden somewhere. Oh, I know where it's hidden. I just didn't find it. And that doubles your shots. A very hard game, but very fair in that I will say when you die, mostly it's all because of your fault. Like, oh, I jumped into the bullet. I didn't. Okay, it's mostly your fault. Very addicting. You want to go just a little further, and it's kind of like a Metroid, but not really, where the world is connected, but you get these keys to go to other areas you couldn't before, and they kind of gate the areas, but that's about it. There's warp stations that warp you to different parts. The music's really good. He did a good job. They did a good job with this game. I will say the bosses are very hard. But you usually start in a room right before them, and you get better at them each time. At first, you're going to die a lot. But each time you get, oh, I learned this pattern. Oh, I learned this pattern. And then you put it together, and you finally beat it, and it's a great thrill to beat these bosses. They're well designed. They're really big sprites. The music's great. Your character looks like a little Mega Man. The story is like, it's there, but it's not important. So you beat 6 bosses of the areas of the fortress, and then you can go to the last area in a Metroid-style room. I don't know if you know in Metroid, there's this room with Kraid and Ridley, and when you beat them, it opens to Torland, and then you can go fight Mother Brain. This is similar. Once you beat the 6 bosses, you go to the last area. Go in that area, and then you can't come back. And then you kind of go in there, and then you lose all your weapons after the one boss. You have to collect your items back, your like feather and your other stuff. I was double jump, and you get those back, and then you can fight the last boss, the Super Mech. And that last boss took me probably 5-6 hours to beat, just that one boss. At first I was like, how am I going to beat this guy? Because you have to know each attack he's doing. He does like 5 different attacks, and you have to know what to do to dodge it. And you can only hit him once or twice during each phase, and you got to be like perfect. Even though it took me that long, I never got upset or discouraged. I felt like I could do it if I just put the time in, and I did it, and happy to finally beat Battle Kid, Fortress of Peril. This is on the Switch, I think, now, and they added like a life bar to the one mode, so you can take more hits, which would, if you want to try it that way, you can. I'd be interested. I think this mode has one. It doesn't have that, but it has one where you start with the damage amp. See, each shot does 5 damage or double damage. So yeah, good game. Very good game. This was a repro from RetroZone on Retro USB. Yeah, good game. If you like you'll play it and you'll see if you like it or not. If you play it, you'll see if you like it or not. That game's right up my alley. Oh yeah, this is the last NES game, I promise. This is a game my cousin had, and I never got far in it. And I was like, I'm gonna learn this game, or at least beat it, learn enough to beat it. And that's Friday the 13th on NES, developed by Atlas, published by LJN. It's a survival horror type game on the NES. So how can I explain this? At first, I didn't know what the heck to do. They tell you at the beginning to light the fireplaces. So okay, with a torch. So okay, I didn't find the torch, but I should back up. How am I going to explain this game? So basically, you start the game, and you see a list of counselors, people at the bottom you can select to. Those selectable characters you can play as. You can switch to them if you're in the little cabins. Little cabins are spattered around the Camp Crystal Lake map. Hit start, there's a map, a big lake in the middle, and there's a path around it, and there's a forest you can go to with connecting paths to all these cabins and stuff. There is 2 types of cabins. A small cabin, which has the counselors, which Jason will attack. Each counselor is in a little cabin somewhere. If you go in, so you start the game, you pick one to start with. If you want to switch to a counselor, you have to go to a little cabin, hit start, and you can then select any of the other counselors, and you'll start at the cabin where they're at as them, and you can come out. That's important because as you're going around the world, you'll hear this beep beep, and that's the Jason alarm. And if you hit start, you'll see a flashing cabin. So Jason, during that beep beep, will be flashing in a cabin and attacking somebody in a cabin, either a counselor or the kids in the middle of the lake. There's 3 little cabins in the middle of a lake where the kids are. I think there's 16 kids. If all the kids die, the game's over. If all the counselors die, the game's over. So when you hear the alarm goes off, you want to go into a cabin, look on your map, switch to the cabin that has the Jason's attacking with the counselor, and attack Jason, the one closest to it or the one with him in, so you don't have to run there to get to him. Fight Jason off, and then he'll stop, and then you can explore some more. And you have these little windows of time to explore and do your main game. So it's like a time limit, which is very frustrating. So you pick your counselor and start the game. The first thing you want to do, the items I found out are not dropped by enemies. First thing you want to do is kill 3 to 5 zombies, and they'll drop you a knife. You start with a rock that arcs. You want to get a knife that goes straight. It's more powerful. You beat the 3 to 5 zombies, get the knife. Then with the knife, when you jump in the air, you'll get a lighter. The lighter is what's used to light the fires that they talk at the beginning, and not the torch. The big cabins have your notes and your fireplaces. So you want to go into the big cabins as the counselor, light the fireplaces, get notes that tell you go to the cabin by the lake. I don't know quite what those do. I think you can follow those notes and they spawn different weapons and such there. What I did was I picked one counselor, light all the fireplaces. When you light all the fireplaces, you get a torch, which is the most powerful weapon. It does a lot of damage to Jason. So what I did is I picked two or three counselors. I think Mark and Chrissy are the best. They're fast and they jump very well. And I go around and you kill the enemies, get the knife, jump, get the lighter for Laura and Mark. Then I light all the big, there's like 6 or 7 big cabins. You have to light with each counselor has to light all the cabins on their own. And when they do that, they get a torch. Then when they have a torch, I do that for the other ones. I get 2 or 3 of them like that. You can also go in the woods and fight Jason's mom, who's like this big floating head. And each day you get like a different thing. At the first day you get a machete, second day you get a sweater. The sweater does half damage. Jason does half damage to you, so you want to get somebody with a sweater on the second day. So anyway, if Jason attacks the kids on the middle cabin, you want to get there soon because he'll kill kids as time goes by. You want to break them off and then stop him and kill Jason. So he does not kill Jason, but stop him from killing the kids, because if the kids die, it's over. So you want to power up 2 or 3 counselors with the torch and get one with the sweater. You get the sweater on the second day. So eventually his life will tick down when you hit him with, and then you can fight him outside because he moves in a pattern I haven't found around outside. So you run into him and he's a lot easier to beat outside. You beat him once, and then it says you defeated Jason, but is he really dead? And then he gets faster on the second day. So then you got to beat him on the second day. And then you beat him on the second day, and then on the third day, he's very hard to beat in a cabin. You want to fight him outside. I haven't found out how to run into him outside. I got lucky where I was able to do enough damage to him outside that I could just fight him inside, just mash and beat him. I don't know how. So this game is very deep, is what I'm saying. I found it fairly addicting, but I don't know if I'll play it again anytime soon. I'm glad I beat it, but this is a very ambitious game. Has problems, but very ambitious. I'm glad I beat it, but man, that's about all I know about Friday 13th. Sorry. Next up is Batman Arkham Asylum on the Xbox 360. This is a 2010 game. 2009, sorry. This is a beat 'em up mixed with Metroid style areas and abilities to get to the new areas. It feels like Metroid Prime meets a beat 'em up game. You play as Batman, and it's a very cool like combat system where it's 2 buttons. So one, you'll punch and it does all these cool moves, and when you see somebody's head flash, an enemy, you hit the Y button and he'll like counter, so you don't take damage. So you want to always watch out for that, hit that and you'll counter. It looks very cool. The combat system's very great. Very fun to explore. Didn't understand the story that much, but it was fun to just go a little further, like Metroid game. You get items, you go further. Very cool looking. The combat was so cool. It was so cool to like fight. It just looked so cool, but it was easy to pull off. Like you could like grapple hook. It has a great grapple hook. Like you could grapple on these like gargoyle statues. You could hang down. It has like a skill tree where you can unlock like, you got the batarang, you got the grapple hook, you got this cool like thing where you can grab walls and pull it down, these like hook shots. And the hook shot's so cool. You hit the bumper and you can like zoom from like, and as you're zooming around these certain stealth missions, like you'll confuse the enemies. They'll get all scared and run around looking for you, and you take them out in silence. I didn't like that part of the game, but it's still kind of cool because I don't really care for stealth, but it's a fun game. I don't know if I'll play the sequels because this one was cool enough, and I heard they get too big and open, and I'm fine with this. This was a perfect length for me. Fun game. Pretty cool. Glad I finally played it. And 2 more. This is Alan Wake on Xbox 360. This is a survival horror adventure story-based game by Remedy, the people with Max Payne. I really like this game. I didn't understand what the heck was going on, but basically you have a flashlight, and you're this writer who finds pages of his manuscript, and telling the story. I guess he's writing and living it. I don't know. But you have this flashlight, the enemies come at you, and you put the flashlight at them, and this little halo gets smaller. When it breaks up, then you can hurt them more. So you want to point the flashlight, kill enemies. It looks so good. This game is so good for 2010. It looks beautiful. Kind of creepy. It reminds me of Twin Peaks, if you ever find that. Controls very well. You flashlight on the left trigger, gun on the right. Very easy to control. It feels good. Characters are cool. Didn't understand the story, but it looks so beautiful. Like the graphics on this are great. Yeah, fun game. Fun game. I see there's a sequel out too. It's really good. And last up is Vengeful Guardian Moonrider on Nintendo Switch. This came out earlier this year, January or February, but I waited for this release here, which is on Amazon right now for like $30. This game's great. It's great. It's short. It's fair. It's like Mega Man. You have four or five stages, and each boss gives you a item, and the items are so powerful. there's like one that you hit the ground and all these it's like all these fireballs come out, and that's really good. If you get close to somebody, you can just nail them and destroy them. They shred through bosses on this game. There's one that's like this portal opens up and this like snake spear comes out like Scorpion from Mortal Kombat. There's one where let me see this, do these flame boomerangs that go. It's not that great. And there's one where like this, you start with one with a spear that comes out, and you access these by hitting the right trigger in this radial menu. And as you explore the areas, you can find these hidden like capsules, and you can have two on your person at one time, on your character. One does like heals your health over time, one heals your magic over time, one as you kill enemies it heals you, as you kill enemies it increases your MP, one has you have a longer sword, and these are hidden like Mega Man X where you find them in capsules. There's 12 of them, I think. And you can make the game as challenging as you want by equipping or not using the special weapons. So the bosses you can destroy with the special weapons. So I've played through it 3 times now, and I've always used the special weapons because they just rip through the bosses. But if you want to make it harder on yourself, there's even an item that you equipped in your slot, and it makes you die in one hit. Or you can go through and not use the special weapons and just use your sword. And it makes it harder because you got to really learn the patterns. I learned the patterns somewhat, but I kind of just spam the special weapons. But it's really cool looking. It looks like Shinobi. It looks like a Genesis game more than anything. It looks like Shinobi because you jump up in here to hit down or diagonal, and you can kick and keep kicking somebody like Shinobi 3. So basically the story is you're a guardian who's working for a corporation, but he becomes like sentient, and he figures what he's doing is wrong. So he joins like the rebellion, and he stops the other guardians, 6 of them, and you have to stop. You're good, so you want to help the people, and eventually you help the resistance overtake this bad. It's like a apocalyptic world, maybe not apocalyptic, but a bad world. And then once you beat those 6 stages, there's like an intro stage, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 stages, and then you go to the last 2 stages. And in between, there's these F-Zero type motorcycle segments where you're on your cycle and you can shoot, and it's kind of cool. It kind of breaks it up a little bit, almost like Vice Project Doom has those side-scrolling and top-down racing games. This is like Mode 7 F-Zero style, and so jump is B, attack is Y, A is your special weapons you get from bosses, and use those special weapons because they help out a lot. You also hold your right trigger, you can run, and if you run and hit Y, you'll do a attack that does a lot more damage, but you got to be careful. If you do it too close, you'll also take damage when you hit the enemy. You can get a double jump through a chip that you can equip, like I said, like Mega Man X style, like find it in this stage, but you don't really need double jump. The stages aren't really designed for that in mind. Like you can get through fine without the double jump. Music's really good. Graphics are good. It has like a CRT filter you can apply to it if you want to play like it looks like a CRT. Short game, but fun. Very replayable. You'll get better and better each time. Like a lot of NES games. You play and you get better and better, and it's very addicting. I'd like to play through it a few more times and try to get better. As each time I'm getting better, I'd like to get it, a little quicker. The one thing I will say is I wish that, like, the double jump's there, but it's not really needed. I wish there was a little more meat in the levels to where you get permanent abilities that let you, like, go back and maybe use this item you got here to go back and get a capsule instead of the capsules you can find in each level. The first time you find them, they're kind of, the way I find them is there's a chip you can get to shows you like a question mark where those are hidden. So I guess I could have not used that, but very good game. Highly recommended. That's Vengeful Guardian Moonrider. And wow, I talked for a lot for those. Sorry about. Well, I hope you have a great day. That's for all the games I beat for September, October 2023. Have a, like I said, great day. Oh, and thanks for the slime, Teddy. He's right there. Goobert. And I'll see you next time. Bye.